Top Med Talk.
Right, hi, it's Monty Mythen here, Editor-in-Chief of Top Med Talk, coming to you live from Wake Med. We're actually in a conference centre right next to Wake Med Hospital here in beautiful, sunny North Carolina, where last night we did a special event sponsored by Edward Life Sciences. We had a dinner symposium, and at that we heard about the launch of the new Cardiac Enhanced Recovery After Surgery Society. And we had a number of the inaugural board members there, the inaugural president there. And now the people have gathered here today in the conference centre at Wake Med. They've just broken for lunch, where they're really getting down into the detail, into the nitty-gritty of what enhanced recovery after cardiac surgery means. Now, I'm joined here by the US lead for Top Med Talk, our managing editor-in-chief. Oh, there you go, promotion. Yeah. And we co-hosted last night. We did. And you just grabbed a friend to come over and have a chat to us about what's been happening here today.
I did. Actually, a friend for a while now, Dr. Bob Booth, who is with NorthStar. He's the Chief Medical Officer for the Southwest region. Bob, how are you?
I am doing great and love sitting down and talking to two friends.
That's right. We've known each other for a while now, yeah, I feel like.
Absolutely.
You've been a faithful contributor and visitor to our EBPOM meetings, or delegate for our EBPOM meetings.
So NorthStar, we're familiar with the NorthStar, brightest in the sky, true north, polar north, and all those good things, but not everyone's going to know what NorthStar means in this context in the USA. Now, we've interviewed some colleagues from NorthStar before, but perhaps you could just expand on that for our listeners for a second. What's NorthStar in this context?
Sure. Well, first of all, with your introduction, we'd like for you to come work for us in marketing. Yes, True North, all those things for sure. But we are an anesthesia management company in the United States, mostly centered in Texas, up through the Midwest and up into Michigan, over to Kentucky, Virginia. Those are some of our hotter spots. We do approximately 1 million cases a year in 150 different facilities, so we're a good-sized group for sure. And within that group, we have been for quite some time now trying to leverage our size into making meaningful, impactful differences in patient outcomes. So naturally, you can see why that splices into EBPOM and Top Med, and coming out to Wake Med to see what they're doing here with their cardiac enhanced recovery. We are very passionate about looking at everything that we can do, all the way down to each individual providers. How can we make a difference? I think we all know the science behind perioperative medicine is not new, right? But we're all working in very busy, challenging patient care environments to implement these things. And so that's where we're struggling along with everybody else. But that's what we're trying to do.
Now, I know that the NorthStar Group is truly passionate about what we've badged as perioperative medicine, because I've just come from a meeting at Duke University Medical Center where a group of us were putting together the final plans for us collectively together, NorthStar and the so-called Morpheus Consortium, which is Duke University Medical Center in the USA, the University of Southampton in England, and University College London, my institution, to do a perioperative medicine fellowship. And we're right in the final. We're just about to kick off, aren't we? It's very,
Absolutely.
Very exciting.
Yes, it is. We're ecstatic about it, and we really believe that in addition to the supply-demand mismatch for having providers to deliver anesthesia to our patients, we have an even more extreme supply-demand mismatch for leaders in the anesthesia space. And so we believe that it's both part of our mission, as well as a bit self-serving as well, to lead in creating leaders in this space. And so we are ecstatic about the partnership with the Morpheus Consortium and all those wonderful people who make that up, and being able to share not just what we're learning in perioperative medicine, but also some of the challenges behind change, the challenges behind implementing some of the things that we know are best for patients in financially sustainable ways.
For people listening wondering why we called it the Morpheus Consortium, the classicists amongst you will know that Morpheus is the winged god of dreams, and we often talk about the fact that our ambition is to get our patients living the dream again, and we use that also as the the code for drinking, eating, and mobilising.
Yeah.
So we thought that was quite a neat fit, where we said collectively this perioperative endeavour is to get your patients home, happy, enjoying their life as much as possible, as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
But before we sat down, you were having an interesting chat. We decided to throw the cans on straight away because you were telling us about some cool stuff that you've been thinking about.
we've had these conversations before, Bob, too, about how do you get people to change? And we know that that's been a huge theme that's been running through every meeting that we go to. And anytime you're putting out something new, and especially on large scale, like an enhanced recovery model or perioperative medicine, and I know that's something that you're truly passionate about yourself. So tell us a little bit about kind of what you've been doing. I heard the tail end of a comment that you made earlier in the session today, and just can you tell us a little bit about that?
A little bit about my background. Prior to going to medical school, I did a master's in psychology and spent a little bit of time in that space and thinking through not just how we approach and treat pathology, but also how do we enable people on the positive psychology side to be successful, and how do we set people up to really excel. Within that, I'm constantly thinking in my role at NorthStar and in this space for how do we help people make change. And in order to do that, you got to think, what are the barriers? I know for a lot of people, especially those of us with anesthesia DNA inside of us, we never want to let them see us sweat. We want everything to look perfect. We want everything to be clean. The way we arrange our back tables down to how precise we are with our blocks.
Yeah.
And so we're very mindful of how we appear outward to other people. And that's why people often call us calm and collected when everything has hit the proverbial fan in the operating room. I think that can hurt us sometimes when it comes to change in medicine, because we want to have everything perfect. The same OCD tendencies that we have in our room setups and our approach to how we pre-op a patient can spill over into rolling out new initiatives that are a little bit intimidating. We talk about breaking down silos, and silos were initially developed because they were comfortable. Those were the places where we knew everybody, and we had confined spaces, and we knew where everything was, and it was all an effort to control.
Yeah.
And anytime you go into a large endeavor, you're a little bit out of control, and that can be intimidating. I know another component to that is just this idea of perfectionism. I don't want to roll this out until it looks perfect, because it needs to be successful or people are going to abandon this. Yeah. The thing that tipped me over was actually outside of medicine and listening to other podcasts, a plug for Reid Hoffman's Masters of Scale. I cannot remember what actual episode it was, but one of the Silicon Valley pioneers was just kind of riffing a little bit on what it's like to have a startup and a new product. And what he said was, if you're not slightly embarrassed by your product when you roll it out, you've probably waited too late to roll it out.
That's so
Get
true.
it out there.
Oh my gosh. That's so true. We get so wrapped up in our own minds that everybody, Gina McConnell, who is the Enhanced Recovery Coordinator here at Wake Med for the cardiac program, we were talking about it, and I think that, she was saying that the hospital just wanted to roll the thing out really fast, though. And she's like, it's not about being fast. It's about being methodical, but it's not about being perfect either. You got to put the time in it and know that you're doing the right thing, but it doesn't have to, the whole picture doesn't have to be absolutely perfect to do it. So don't rush into it, but make sure that, you are just getting something out there and just put the rubber to the road and start doing something. Like you said earlier about, we know it's the right thing to do. So let's just start doing it and see if we make a difference. Well,
and I think that's why these gatherings, EBPOM, anytime we can all get together is so important, because, again, it's kind of a group psychotherapy session. And it's really, really refreshing in that when we sit around in this group, the pride goes away.
Yeah.
The transparency and the vulnerability comes out, and you hear people, not just people within the audience, but people who are sitting at the table who are our experts in the field, who are saying, we think this is what we need to do, we have not gotten there yet as well.
Yeah.
And that's encouraging to everybody else who's saying, I haven't started an enhanced recovery protocol yet. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. I don't know where to go. And I think people need to realize they actually know more than they think they do.
Yeah.
And they need to start in the space that they're comfortable. Oftentimes that is the intraoperative, piece in the middle of that continuum, and start saying, okay, how can we make this part better? And how can I invite some other people in who are also interested in doing this? And I think you grow the continuum from the middle out.
Yes.
And you just keep chipping away at the sides, and you keep inviting more people in. And that's been successful for us so far. And to the point that when we have our enhanced recovery hospital committees and we meet together, anesthesia has kind of become a lighthouse. And people are saying, I love what they've done with that. Do you think we can do this? And you can hear it. People are vulnerable in those. They're kind of saying, hey, what if?
Yeah.
Can we try? Can we do this? And I think as long as you're measuring those results and as long as you're doing things that are, supported for best practices for taking care of patients, I think you should just go for it and not worry about being slightly embarrassed about what it looks like when you first roll it out, but be honest, measure your results, make adjustments, and just keep moving.
Yeah.
And keep it simple, because we were the discussion point was the sort of tilt. I'm just going into my bag to look for it. The tilt for this was the recent publication of the guidelines, the cardiac guidelines. Guidelines for perioperative care in cardiac surgery, published in JAMA Surgery, May 4, 2019. And apparently their most downloaded article, perhaps ever. First author, Engelman Daniel T., who is the president of the Enhanced Recovery After Cardiac Surgery recently formed society. Now, we went through the list in here.
Yeah,
and we went down the list, and it's not great radio, this, but we went
podcasting.
down the list here, and we checked off the things. And to be fair, of the 20 sort of main evidence-based items that are said to make up an enhanced recovery program, I'm guessing everyone's doing at least 12 of them. To get go. So they could start off by saying, well done us. We're already at the 60. We've already got a pass mark here. We're already at sort of 60 to 70%. Let's go down the list of the probably 6, 7, 8 things that we're not doing so well, and let's pick a couple of them and go at it.
Yeah.
I thought that was Dan's big message.
I got that too.
You don't have to try and do all of these complicated things at once. Maybe you go after the opioid sparing, and maybe you go after the goal-directed. Pick one of those and check them off. Is that fair?
Oh, I think that's absolutely the approach we need to take, and it fits well with the psychology of change and what we're trying to do. I try to think, how are my words going to be heard when I walk into a busy hospital, for which many of our conversations are about growing service lines and staffing challenges to how do we cover all of the ORs, how do we cover all of the needs, how do we do this? And so I am cognizant now that when I show up to work on days wearing a suit jacket instead of wearing scrubs, that people may already have their guard up. What more are they going to ask for us to do? And so I begin by starting with, here are the things you guys are already doing great.
Yeah.
Because multimodal analgesia is not new.
Yeah.
Most places have already been doing this and doing this for a while. Regional anesthesia, ultrasound-guided regional anesthesia, it is not new. There are so many areas that people are really doing well, and I think you begin by telling people how well they're doing in that, and then saying, I think that what we need to do is we need to package these things together. We need to protocolize these things. And to steal from the business world, what we really need for a lot of our things is to market them better.
Absolutely.
We are doing these things really well. Now let's market it. Let's measure those things, and then let's build on that success.
I always call that the internal marketing. You have external marketing that it's like telling everybody about, hey, we're doing this great thing, but the internal marketing is whenever you're working with your colleagues and everyone else you're trying to get on board to do it, the providers, because you have to have that piece of it as well. I've just been so inspired, though, by so many people that we've talked to in my journey through enhanced recovery and with people I've met across the world who are doing it. It always starts with one person coming back and saying, I heard this great thing, I read this article, and they're not some like major, player necessarily. They're just a person that's doing the job every single day and says, I think I can do this better. I think we can do this better. And it just starts like that. And that's how some of these major programs, that's how the Wake Med program started. Gina McConnell heard about it, and she went to one of the surgeons, and was like, do you think we could do this?
But they're natural leaders. You can lead from the back of the pack. You know what I mean? You were saying there's a paucity of leaders, but leaders can come from anywhere. They need, when you see them, when they champion something and they show leadership characteristics, they need support to be successful. Yeah. But the natural leaders should be nourished, shouldn't they?
They are natural. Well, and I think to your point, it's about how we deal with the psychology, and the natural leaders are the ones that kind of get that. They are really intelligent people. They have a high emotional IQ as well.
I think so, and I think they own the place that they're in. They're fully present. They're engaged, and oftentimes the people who are our greatest leaders are the ones who haven't forgotten, or they continually keep it in front of them, that we're really trying to just take care of patients. We're really just trying to say, how can I make this experience for you the best that it can possibly be, so that your time in the hospital, which you never wanted to do, which you never thought was coming, which you want to get out of as fast as you possibly can, is limited, and you can go back to your life to the greatest degree of functioning, hopefully functioning even better than you were before you come in. So the people who own that, all we need to do is give them little tools, occasional stress dose steroids, right? Just kind of keep them moving, keep them going. And I think when you do that, then it gets really exciting, because you've mobilized a massive force.
But any, from last night and what you've heard so far today, any key takeaways from your perspective? I mean, most of it, as you said, is a lot of familiar stuff in there. Yeah. But the people who've done the cardiac ERAS have produced some fantastic results, very, very similar to what's happened in enhanced recovery used in other areas. Have you got any key areas you're going to focus on? I'll tell you mine in a second, but...
Sure. So the couple of take-homes for me, first is the feel, and I've done this now multiple times, and we get to hang out in different cities and go to places, and it's always a great group, but there seems to be a little extra buzz within the cardiac community. Yes. And I don't know if that's a little bit of just their DNA already coming into this, but there seems to be, and I mean this in a really positive way, but an aggressiveness and an assertiveness that we're going to move, and we're going to move quickly. And so I'm very encouraged by what this society, specifically what the cardiac field is wanting to do. And then I think that the take-home is that, and it's a spinoff from this, that there's a community here that's sharing and that's riffing off of each other, and that is benefiting so much for me, and in particular what our personal group that we brought here. So we brought a group from Baylor Scott and White All Saints Hospital in Fort Worth that has a cardiac surgeon, that has a cardiac anesthesiologist, that has a cardiac CRNA, that has multiple mid-level providers, both for the surgical team and the ICU. And we have one of our ICU intensivists, cardiac ICU intensivists. Great. And so this team is already forming together their protocols.
They're already getting engaged.
They're making it right now off of the information that's coming. So what comes out of this is going to be exciting. Those are the gut feelings that I'm getting spending time with people here.
And cardiac, it's a relatively small tribe, which is, if you look at the sort of anthropological analyses, it's the size of a tribe where you could change the world of cardiac surgery. We were driving in, I was noticing on the way in that the next road across is called Donald Ross. And I don't know if people know who Donald Ross was.
Yeah, I didn't know. It's like, I don't know who
So
Donald
the Ross procedure is quite a famous cardiac procedure. Donald Ross is originally from South Africa, so would have been around the time of the first heart transplant in South Africa. But actually was a surgeon in the UK, in Britain. He was my boss at one stage. We met a couple of times. I worked for him for a year. Sorry, Donald. The name 2 Up is named after him, because it's that smaller tribe, South Africa, UK. Here we are in Wake Med. There's a road named after him.
If that's the same Donald Ross.
It'll be the same. Trust me, it'll be the same Donald Ross.
That's awesome. I did not realize
Well,
that. I mean, it's
that's
true.
how small a tribe it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's very true. I mean, but we all kind of live in our world of our own little microcosm. I mean, I feel like it really can be, and we can live on our own small tribe. I kind of feel like.
I agree, but the great thing about getting together like this is when we see and feel, because it is small. It's a small pool. When somebody throws a rock in and those ripples hit all of us, and we say, "Wow, you did what with AKI? That's fantastic!" And out of that same team comes you struggled with that too.
Yeah,
and
or
so
we're still trying to perfect it, or not perfect it, but we're still just trying to get this piece of it going. You know,
and I think that's how we do things. If you take a narrative philosophy to how things. How our worldviews are shaped and how we look at things, seeing other actors in the play, and seeing the parts that they play, and seeing the drama and the emotion behind failure, and the excitement and the joy behind success, and then when you start to come up to your part and you speak and you realize I'm now in the play as well too, and I connect with this person here and this character here, and you become part of that. We're all forming that narrative story. It's a long story. we just get a few acts here or there, and some of us don't even get speaking lines at times, but we're all part of that story, and that's what I think is fun, is that we're starting to see a little bit of how we think this is going to end, or at least what the next few chapters are, and it looks really good. It's a fun thing to be excited and to be a part of, honestly.
Yeah, it really is.
Right, well, I say we're excited about getting going with the fellowship, kicking off very shortly now. Desiree,
so exciting.
Anything else?
No, I just thanks so much for sitting down with us. This is long overdue because I know we said it for a while, and appreciate your insight, because I think it's the psychology piece is huge. We talk about it all the time, and I think this conversation will give a lot of our listeners something to chew on for a while. So
brilliant.
Thanks.
Great, thanks
appreciate
a lot.
it. Thanks for all your work you're doing.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers.
Top Med Talk.
Nick Majerison here. Thanks for listening to Top Med Talk. Now, before we let you go, it's important that we remind you to subscribe to Top Med Talk. That way you'll never, ever miss another episode. Also, if we could encourage you to join us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, pretty much every single social media platform, we're there. Join us. And finally, check out topmedtalk.com. If you go to our website, you can subscribe to email updates. That way we can always tell you where we're going to be, what we're going to be doing, and how you can join us. topmedtalk.com, and click on the section marked email updates. Finally, Top Med Talk is proud to act as the broadcasting arm of EBPOM, Evidence-Based Perioperative Medicine. We'd love you to find out more about them as well. ebpom.org is their website. That's ebpom.org. And if you go to ebpom.org/meetings, you can find out about some of the wonderful meetings that we attend and cover across the year here on Top Med Talk. That's ebpom.org/meetings.